It was January 23rd, 1959, a time when the Soviet Union was in the midst of the Cold War, and the Ural Mountains stood vast and unyielding against the winter sky. 9 hikers, students and graduates from the Ural Polytechnic Institute, set out on what was meant to be an exhilarating adventure, a 14-day trek across the frozen wilderness of the northern Ural Mountains. Their leader was Igor Dyatlov, a 23-year-old experienced mountaineer with an iron will and a thirst for challenge. The group was young, ambitious, and prepared. They carried skis, food, cameras, and meticulously kept diaries, chronicling every step of their journey. But by the time the final entry was written, none of them would live to tell their tale. From Sverdlovsk, now Yekaterinburg, the group traveled by train, bus, and military trucks, gradually leaving civilization behind. At a small settlement called Vishai, they spent their last night in warmth, joking, laughing, and taking photographs. The next morning, January 27th, they began their trek into the mountains. Along the way, one of their own, Yuri Yudin, fell ill. His joints ached and his fever worsened. Though reluctant, he turned back, unaware that he had just been spared a fate more chilling than the icy winds. The remaining 9 hikers pressed on. On the evening of February 1st, the team made camp on the eastern slope of Kholat Syakhl, a name that means dead mountain in the local Mansi language. The decision was strange. Just 1.5 kilometers downhill, a forested area would have provided shelter from the wind. But for reasons unknown, they chose the open slope. That night, they cooked their final meal. Some wrote in their diaries. Everything seemed normal. And then, something happened. Something so terrifying, so sudden, that all 9 hikers fled into the freezing night, barefoot. Weeks passed. When the group failed to return, search teams set out. On February 26th, rescuers found the abandoned tent. It was still standing, but something was wrong. The tent was cut open from the inside. Their boots, food, and supplies remained untouched. Footprints, barely visible in the snow, led downhill. Some barefoot, some in socks, others in only one shoe. It was -30 degrees Celsius. No one could survive long dressed like that. Following the tracks, searchers stumbled upon horror. The first 2 bodies, Yuri Krivonyshenko and Yuri Doroshenko, lay beneath a Siberian pine tree, nearly 1.5 kilometers from the tent. They were shoeless, dressed only in underwear, their hands burned, as if they had desperately tried to light a fire. Above them, broken branches suggested one of them had climbed the tree, possibly to see something in the distance. But what? Between the tree and the tent, 3 more bodies were found. Igor Dyatlov lay face up, arms bent, as if he was crawling back toward the tent. Zinaida Kolmogorova had scratches and bruises, her face frozen in an expression of terror. Rustam Slobodin's skull was fractured, yet there was no external bleeding. All 3 appeared to have died from hypothermia. But something about their poses seemed unnatural, as if they had been running for their lives. The search continued for 2 months. Finally, in May, the remaining 4 hikers were found in a ravine, buried under 4 meters of snow. Unlike the others, they hadn't died from cold. They had suffered horrific injuries. Nikolay Shibo-Brignol had a crushed skull. Alexander Zolotaryov and Lyudmila Dubinina had massive chest fractures, their ribs shattered with a force comparable to a car crash. Dubinina's tongue, eyes, and part of her face were missing, yet no external wounds suggested an attack. And stranger still, some of their clothing was radioactive. What could have caused 9 experienced hikers to flee their tent in sheer terror, half-dressed, into a deadly blizzard? For decades, theories have swirled. Avalanche? The 2020 official Russian report claimed a slab avalanche crushed some hikers, forcing them to flee. Military experiments? Some believe secret weapons tests frightened the group into running blindly into the night. Paranormal? Tales of UFOs, Yetis, or infrasound-induced panic still haunt the case. But no definitive answer exists. To this day, the Dyatlov Pass incident remains one of the greatest mysteries of the modern age. 9 young hikers, full of life, laughter, and dreams, perished under inexplicable circumstances, and the last words written in their diary. We now know the snowmen exist. What did they see that night? What really happened on that frozen mountain? Perhaps we'll never know. The Dyatlov Pass remains unsolved.